Good morning, everybody. I'll give it a few minutes to let people log on. I know it's early out west, but see who logs on anyway. And we're going to have a good talk today. I've had a lot of messengers. I want to get some facts out, what is and what isn't. And there's some critical knowledge here, some of the works I'm doing, and I really want people to share it out and to understand the world as it is, not the way a lot of people are narrating. And I know because I'm out there and there's a lot of loyal followers with me who will back up everything I'm saying, because a lot of them have got to participate in these things with me. So I guess I give it a few minutes. Hopefully people log on. It's pretty early, but unless my video's not running either, sometimes I don't get good service. Might have to restart it. Oh, there, people are starting to come on. Okay, excellent. Okay, I'm going to get into this video. I know it's early. There, I see Maggie. I think more people will start coming in. But I want to have a talk here. Everybody that's sharing about second Nuremberg trials, not going to happen. Let's talk about Nuremberg trials. Military tribunal, post-World War II, absolutely against Nazi Germany. Very limited. Yes, there were 200 people out of more than 3,000 put through the process. 200 were absolutely executed in that time period between 1945 and conclusion 1949. It's not going to come back up, Nuremberg trials, unless there's somebody still alive today that is found out from that time that committed atrocious war crimes. A lot of history post-1949, people sentenced to death after that fact were commuted to life sentences. It's American too as well, the IMT. So there won't be any more Nuremberg trials. Anyone telling you there's a second set of Nuremberg trials for COVID or other global narratives, not true. If you want to go to International Criminal Court, ICC, that is the highest court in the world that absolutely addresses human rights violations, as well as the power to impose the death penalty. Highest court in the world today, the only court to go to. And to get a judgment, you absolutely have to win the 5 allies. The same 5 allies from the Nuremberg trials. Nuremberg trials, specific, absolutely specific for Nazi Germany. So there will never be likely another Nuremberg trial. However, International Criminal Court, that's where you go. I'm trying to do that myself for the politicians over freedom of movement versus freedom of religion. Yesterday, massive win in Supreme Court, very predictable in the United States of America. The state of California lost on restricting freedom of religion. People are allowed to get together, you're allowed to worship, you're allowed to pray. So, Canada, wow. And why is that? Because again, Canada doesn't have any kind of codified constitution in relation to how to govern, rules of governance. People have to learn this. We are a constitutional monarchy. It's not communism. Canada has and always will be until we, the people, address it through who we elect for federal government. You can do it provincially too if you can convince a premier to absolutely enshrine a constitution, which, again, I'm going to say it again, there are 0 constitutions for the provinces of Canada who have serious division of powers. We haven't done that. No premier wants to give any true democracy to any citizens of any province or territory. None whatsoever. They're all bad. They're all corrupt. They're all anti-democratic. Again, it's not communism. It's constitutional monarchy. What's called small c. And they absolutely rule by civil decree. They can change the laws through legislature in a majority government any time. absolutely all of your civil rights, which are 2/3 of the rights in Canada under our federal constitution. 2/3 of your rights are held in trust of the province to be administered by your premier. And the premier has 0 rules of governance, people. You don't have provincial constitutions. USA, they have state constitutions. All those civil rights, division of powers, absolutely protected by state governor. You go on to Russia, absolutely every region has their own regional constitution where 2/3 of their rights can't be touched by Vladimir Putin. Okay? Now, Justin Trudeau has what's called crown power. It's illegal, but he kept it. His predecessors from 1952, conservative predecessors from 1952, got together after King George died and said, hey, look, he died, the crown's out, it's sitting here, we have all this constitutional monarchy power embedded in our federal constitution that gives us full power and control over all the people, and we can absolutely usurp democracy any time we want. All we have to do is pick up the crown, put it on our head, utilize Governor General, Lieutenant Governors across every province, through an assigned Privy Council, again by the Prime Minister, the Senate, again all appointed absolutely by the Prime Minister. In Canada, the executive is monstrous in size, extremely powerful, and whoever is Prime Minister absolutely wears a crown of full colonial power. It's never left Canada. Never left. Only international law makes Canada change its course. It's only when the 5 allies enshrine something and impose it on Canada. That's all you people get. That's all we get as Canadian citizens. We are absolutely as bad as communism, if not worse. For whatever reason, Canadians can't wake up to the fact that absolutely only 11% of Canada is made available to you. Look at the map of Canada. Crown land federal, Crown land provincial. Why would there be a division like that? Why did Alberta have to fight for it? Because the League of Nations fell. Post-World War II, everything absolutely changed. The Allies made rules, and your governments are keeping it from you that absolutely this country has to be settled. There are First Nation claims, and there's the government trust, the Crown, which absolutely Prime Minister holds. Whoever you elect Prime Minister, you are basically electing King or Queen of Canada. That's what you do. King George died before he could finish the work. There was no amendment done post-1952 when the Crown was obligated to pull out of Canada. Absolutely. From that day forward, there was never another Governor General, Lieutenant Governors of every province and territory to be brought in from the UK. They all used to be. They all used to be Lords, Barons, you name it, from the UK. Not since 1952. They're all Canadians appointed absolutely by Prime Minister. That's the reality, everybody. Look it up. You'll find it's true. Chief Justice Wagner, who is sitting in the role of Governor General today, is rewriting the office. Any of you right now can Google search Governor General for the office of Governor General in Canada, and you will see all the rewrites. Justice Wagner's all over it. He's disclosing the truth. Is it everything we wanted? No, but at least he's putting it there. If you look through the descriptions, you're going to find everything I say is true. He has to do it. He's doing it. It's the same for Lieutenant Governor. Orders in council, what are those? Whenever the Prime Minister wants to use his superpowered executive power, which is basically a crown power from colonialism that they stole since 1952, whenever they don't want to use the parliamentary system, meaning full democracy, they do an order in council, meaning whoever he has ascended and swore an oath to his crown, his cabinet, and they become lifetime. You can all look this up. There's a whole list of how many there are in Canada. Every time, every incoming government who puts that crown on their head federally, they have a cabinet. That cabinet swears an oath to Her Majesty, which is your Prime Minister, and they swear an oath to that crown. Absolutely administered by Prime Minister. So are all senators, regardless of whoever you elect. Multi-party system? No, not really, not in the executive. Those senators must cross over as soon as the new Prime Minister's brought in, whichever party. It's an illusion of democracy, everybody. That's reality. Second thing we're going to get into here, I went through Nuremberg trials. Now I can't remember what my second point is because I had a little runaway there. What was my second one? Somebody's going to have to type it. What's my second point there? It's important to go through it. What is and what isn't. Oh, I remember. Russia and Ukraine. What I'm doing right now. So I've been on this international journey, going to all the major academics of the world. I've been through all 5 of these world powers. So for Russia and Ukraine, what Canadians need to know. When you talk about the UN, there's a General Assembly of Nations. Then there's the absolute power of international law, which is the United Nations Security Council. Been absolute since 1946, worldwide. When those 5 countries make any law that they ratify together, whether it was brought from the General Assembly or brought by them, when those 5 countries sign on to something, that is absolute worldwide. Absolute. So when we look at laws, there are some other somewhat absolute laws that do affect every nation except for the 5. And that's when something's brought up in maybe General Assembly, every nation votes on it, and let's say those 5 countries where you have to secure their votes, or they abstain, which means they didn't vote no, they're just saying, look, we're going to allow it to go through and we're going to watch, but we're not going to ratify it. We're not going to say no, because if they say, any one of them says no, it goes to the garbage. But they can stay back, called abstention. When it comes to those 5, when they abstain, it's not a no vote. It's allowed to go through, but it's tentative, meaning any time that nation wants, they can come forward and say, nope, we changed our mind, no, and then it's scrapped. Or with those 5, if one is abstained, even just one, none of that law is binding on the other 4. It's not truly binding. Any of the other 4 can choose not to enforce it. Why this is hugely important and where I'm at exactly right now, I'm looking at the narrative that we've been taught with Russia and Ukraine. I've done a pile of work with them. Russia and Ukraine are at each other like this. Now the question here is, everybody, is Russia the bad guy over Crimea annexation and all the fighting with Ukraine? We watch USA, Ukraine, other nations, Russia, China. There's a whole narrative out there. What's real? Well, I'm going to tell you what's real right now. In 1948, 2 countries, Ukraine and Russia, absolutely abstained from the 1948 Declaration of Human Rights. So what does that mean? It means Russia and Ukraine don't really have to follow those laws if they don't want to. And of the other 4 countries, because Russia Federation is the one binding country in this equation, because of that, China doesn't have to follow any human rights today. They're allowed to violate at will, and there's no enforcement that can be done by the other nations of the UNSC, because Declaration of Human Rights 1948, I urge everybody to read it. It's the most powerful document, a super-powered what's the name here? Magna Carta, okay? It's a super powered version of the Magna Carta for the entire world. It's the newest version of Magna Carta, absolutely enshrined worldwide. Now, Russia just abstained, but because of that, when you look at China doesn't have to follow it. Even though they signed it, there's no mechanism to make China accountable for human rights violations. No one's going to teach you this stuff. This is what you have to go through when you get out there and you look at the world as it really is. In the West here, we get narratives that are mostly pushed by the US or UK, especially for Canada, absolutely pushed by UK. We don't always get the full truth. We get a Western or European version from the UK that's skewed. Now, Russia screams out every day on this stuff. Just now, 19 minutes ago, I responded to Dmitry. Dmitry is the assistant to the UN. He's mostly assigned to represent Russia on the world stage in other matters. Every representative, they're allowed two reps. Dmitry's one of them. He takes care of all the serious international stuff. And right now, the entire world, the allies have put sanctions on Russia because they did violate the law. Annexation in today's world is illegal. When we look at Crimea, military coup, they flipped and then they went to Russia. Predominantly, Crimea is one type of religion that's absolutely enshrined by the Russia Federation, not well liked in the Ukraine. There are human rights violations going back and forth right now. Russia is accusing Ukraine of it. The term bastards, the post I made last week about bastards, that's absolutely what Russia is saying. That comes right from Dmitry. They make a post about it. Now, the West doesn't understand what Dmitry's talking about, but here's the reality, everybody. With what China's doing today, if the USA and the other allies, but basically the USA, if the USA would drop sanctions on Russia for Crimea annexation, if they let that go and Russia agreed to sign the 1948 Declaration of Human Rights, all of those Magna Carta enshrined rights and massive human rights on this earth today become binding on the country of China. And now the world can shift and absolutely place sanctions on China for all their gross human rights violations. But the other half of that is Canada is susceptible to that now too. Canada is just as guilty as China with the First Nations right here in Canada, and the absolute power of colonialism and crown power that both conservatives and liberals have utilized and are imposing on all of us today. Why only 11% of Canada is available to Canadian citizens? If we get this job done, if we can convince America to sit down with Russia, get them talking, and Russia gets the sanctions dropped, in exchange, they sign the Declaration of Human Rights, we can all move forward as a world united. And we can start addressing massive human rights violations worldwide. And then you can get right back into ICC and Nuremberg trial type situations, which still occur around the world today. But we need China on board. We need to bind China. The only way to bind China is all the allies. Now, again, China signed the Declaration of Human Rights. It only takes Russia now. And so all of you know Ukraine is not innocent here. Not one bit. And the proof of that is they have not signed the 1948 Declaration of Human Rights. They abstained so they can continue to commit human rights atrocities. Russia Federation is bringing this to light. So this is the thing. If Ukraine isn't a bad guy, why will you not enshrine the Declaration of Human Rights 1948? We have to look at things, everybody, as they are, not how we're dictated to or by other nations sending us information which may or may not be accurate. And it's not accurate. The proof of the pudding is, any one of you can look at this today, Declaration of Human Rights 1948. If you haven't read it, you should. Russia is not officially signed on. They abstained. Ukraine abstained, which means they don't have to follow any of that in their UN state. Same with Russia. So, what are we going to do, world? Where should the focus be right now? That's where it should be. And you want to talk about addressing real human rights, getting your country to be held to account? That's the action. That's where we have to go. Thank you. That's my video today. Get it shared out. There's a ton of great information in here for everybody. Whether people like it or not, this is absolute truth. No bullshit, no lies. I didn't create the term bastards. That's absolutely Russia Federation. You can read it. I know there's a Russian version, but I'm going to tell everybody right now, any time I've ever gone out with them and I've asked anything, I've said, could I please have this in English? And instantly I get it all in English. A lot of my loyal followers know it's true. Whether people want to say, hey, who is this guy? It's not that I'm nobody. I'm just treating the world as it truly is. And it's opening up to me by many, many nations, experts, scholars, and actual government officials. It's an incredible journey. I've been on it for 4 years, stayed the course, and I'm just going like this. That's my video today. Share it because it's true. Get it out there. Bye now.